one point of view was there should be a new election. That somebody who had an inability, had just become the president of the student body and then resigned, that's a circumstance that calls for a new election. I said not so. Under the student constitution, the vice president succeeds to the presidency, and that decision by me as a vice president was affirmed by the student judiciary at Fordham College at the time. So I had a particular interest in this subject from that college experience. So I undertook the writing of an article, and it got published, as you pointed out, in October of '63.
So October of '63 is still a month before the assassination of then President Kennedy. And here we had the country had just elected its youngest president to date. What was the kind of reception that you received initially upon publishing that article about the need for a clearer path for succession?
I would say the article appeared a month before the assassination. It was just another publication, and I made reprints of it thanks to the Fordham Law Review, and I sent the publication to people that I thought would have an interest in the subject, which included President Kennedy and his two brothers, Robert and Ted Kennedy, also to Richard Nixon, and also to a few journalists, one being Arthur Kroc of the New York Times. I just thought that before my article got retired to the shelves of a law library, that I should make known my point of view to people interested in the subject. And that really made a difference. Because when Kennedy was assassinated, 2 days later on Sunday in the New York Times, Arthur Kroc had an article on the subject of what would have happened if the president did not die but was disabled, and said there's a very good study that was done of that subject by a lawyer by the name of John Feerick at the Fordham Law Review. And that was in his column of November 24, 1963.
Wow.
Dean, Cold War historians write about presidential succession during the Cold War and the nuclear standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union at that time. Was that a factor in your consideration of the 25th Amendment?
Well, it's certainly a reality as a very young citizen, young lawyer at the time. It was in my mind, but it really wasn't. It really wasn't the reason that I thought there should be a constitutional amendment. And if one goes back to 1881, when Chester Arthur succeeded to the presidency on the death of Garfield. Garfield had been disabled. He sent messages to Congress saying that this part of the Constitution needed to be clarified. And that point of view, one would find during the Wilson administration and during the Eisenhower administration. So I was looking at the subject, as in terms of constitutional reform that was necessary. And at the Constitutional Convention of 1787, one of the delegates said, he got no answer, he said the draft Constitution was ambiguous. It didn't define inability, and it didn't say who determines inability. So we had a lurking issue there from the start of our Constitution that needed to be addressed.
So you published this piece in October of '63. November of '63, the president is murdered. By February of 1967, the 25th Amendment has been ratified and is part of the U.S. Constitution. What did it take to make that happen?
It took a young senator by the name of Senator Birch Blythe from Indiana, who had persuaded the chair of the Judiciary Committee that he was entitled to an opportunity to chair the subcommittee on constitutional amendments of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He made a commitment to doing this area as a principal undertaking of that subcommittee. he then reached out to the American Bar Association, and the American Bar Association, independently of that reaching out, also had come to the conclusion that it should address the issue in a special way and make recommendations. And that special way was a conference on presidential inability at the end of January of '64. And I was invited because of the article to be a member of that 12-member committee. And I sat next to Senator Birch Bayh, who came to make a presentation to the committee of his ideas on the subject.
So when we chatted previously too, you made a particular mention of Senator Bayh. What was it about his leadership that so stood out to you?
One, he really wanted to take this subject on as part of being a young senator at the time. And the committee that he chaired already had hearings, and Senator Keith Farber and Senator Keating of New York were both involved with ideas how to deal with that. And he sought the chairmanship of the Subcommittee on Constitutional Amendments. He was, as a student, was invested in the Constitution of the United States. I've had him say to me and students that he spoke before at Fordham Law School. And the American Bar Association, through its public office and its leadership at the time, said this is a subject even though we had a recommendation on at the time, we should get a group together and then work also with the Congress and see if we could establish reforms in this area.